All right, good afternoon and welcome to Global Communication 2. This makeup lecture is for our class on Tuesday, September the 23rd, 2025. I'm very sorry that I'm not able to come to campus. I hope this makeup lecture will be a good substitute. Today, I want to talk about descriptive writing, in particular, how to use certain adverbs, adjectives, and other language varieties in order to make the reader really feel an experience, whether you're describing what something looks like, what it tastes like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, etc. Okay, so without any further, let me go over here. Without any further delay, let's jump into this and take a deep dive into descriptive writing. Let me bring this up quickly. Here we go. Before I start talking about descriptive writing, I just want to give you a quick preview of what we're going to be talking about in Thursday's class. At the end of our class last week, you and your partners brainstormed some questions related to advertising and Generation Z. Well, here are a few questions which I found that I thought were quite interesting. Now, I have a couple of different Global Communication 2 classes, so if you don't see your questions here, don't worry. I'll probably pick a few of those and bring them to class on Thursday for our class on campus. But these were some ones that I thought were quite good. So Generation Z is very selfish. Do you agree or disagree? I think older generations have been calling younger people selfish or lazy or some other negative adjective for thousands of years. So I think it's not surprising that older people are using the same language when talking about Generation Z. Is it accurate or not? Do you think offline advertising can still be effective when targeting Gen Z? I mean, is online advertising the only effective way of marketing towards Generation Z, or is offline advertising still effective in some ways? What celebrity most embodies key characteristics of Gen Z? Why is Gen Z obsessed with cancel culture? Ooh, that would be an interesting question. Hot button topic. Why does Gen Z quit jobs more easily than previous generations? In the past, people would stay at one job for decades, sometimes only having one real full-time job for their whole career. But these days, job hopping, going from job to job to job without staying too long at any one particular place of employment, is very, very common. Why does Generation Z do this? Next, what are a couple of other questions I thought were good? Gen Z is more open-minded than their parents' generation. Do you agree or disagree? What is the most cost-effective way of advertising to Gen Z? Why is Gen Z not interested in getting married and having a family? And why are pop-up stores so popular for Gen Z? A couple of these questions were brought up by students in both of my Global Communication 2 classes. It was interesting that despite being in different classes, some students have the same topics in mind when they come up with questions for their generation. All right, so let's go on to today's topic, which is descriptive writing. This is the second half of Unit 2 in the textbook, and it talks about how to use sensory language in order to convey the full experience of something to a reader, using language that takes advantage of our sense of sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. If you have good descriptive writing, you can effectively communicate what something sounds like, tastes like, feels like, looks like, and what it smells like. So let's see how this works in a few different types of writing. I'm going to use an example from the textbook, but also from a couple of pieces of writing that I have in my own collection at home. My first example here is from a Japanese writer called Sayaka Murata. Now, she wrote a story called, or she wrote a novel called Convenience Store Woman. And it's about a Japanese woman in her 30s who's working at a convenience store in Tokyo. And the opening to the book, the first two chapters, has some wonderful descriptive language. If you want to know how can you use descriptive language to show what something sounds like, what it's like to be in a place, I think this opening is very, very effective. So let me just quickly read this to you and you'll see what I mean. A convenience store is a world of sound. From the tinkle of the door chime to the voices of TV celebrities advertising new products over the in-store cable network, to the calls of the convenience store workers, the beeps of the barcode scanner, the rustle of customers picking up items and placing them in baskets, and the clacking of high heels walking around the store. It all blends into the convenience store sound that ceaselessly caresses my eardrums. I hear the faint rustle, or I hear the faint rattle of a new plastic bottle rolling into place as a customer takes one out of the refrigerator, and I look up instantly. A cold drink is often the last item that customers take before coming to the checkout till, and my body responds automatically to the sound. I see a woman holding a bottle of mineral water while perusing the desserts, and I look back down. Okay, that is some excellent descriptive writing right there. I can almost feel myself inside this convenience store. What language is Sayaka Murata using to help us understand the feeling of being in a convenience store and all of the sounds that would surround us? Well, we get the tinkle of the door chime. We can hear the voices of TV celebrities. There's the beeps of the barcode scanner. There's the rustle of customers picking up items from the shelves. There's the clacking of high heels walking around the store. And she can hear the faint rattle of a new plastic bottle when somebody takes out a bottle and the new one rolls into place. All of these descriptions come together to give us a very great, very deep description of what it's like to be in that convenience store. Next, I'd like to read you a short clip from this book. And this is one that I actually have. Can you see if I can get it up close there? No, seem to have disappeared there. All right. I have this book in my possession. It's called On Writing. It was written by Stephen King, who has sold many, many millions of copies of his books, and many of his books have been adapted into successful films. So he knows a lot about writing. And many years ago, he decided to write a book about how people that want to learn how to write better, what they can do in order to improve their writing skills. Now, at the beginning of this book, he says, a lot of people want to know where I get my ideas, and they think that I had some very disturbing events in my childhood. And he gives a short biography, autobiography. He talks about growing up as a child, his life in high school, his time as an early adult, and this goes on until he finally writes his first book and gets it published, and it's a big turning point in his life. The part that I want to read to you is about when Stephen King got sick as a child. His ear became infected, and he had to go to the doctor. So this would have been, I guess, in the 1950s at some time. All right. So here we are, a childhood visit to the doctor. Now here's the basics of the anecdote. It's a short personal story, so we call it an anecdote. Stephen was sick when he was about 6 years old. His mother took him to the doctor. The doctor said his ear was infected. The doctor drained his ear because it was infected. They had to drain the pus, and it hurt a lot. Now, if that's all you say in the anecdote, it's going to feel very boring. It's very, very bare bones. There's no descriptive writing. When Stephen King describes going to the doctor as a child, he uses very descriptive language so that the reader really gets a sense of what it was like to be 6 years old in the doctor's office and experience what he did. So I'm going to read a short excerpt from this book, and I hope Stephen King doesn't mind that I am reproducing at least a small part of his work. Hope I don't get sued for this. Mr. King, if you happen to see this video, you've always been a big inspiration of mine, so please don't sue me. All right. So he's going to use the following descriptive language. Slid, meaning the past tense of slide, because the doctor has this tool that he's going to slide into Stephen's ear. And I think the word slide is much more visual, much more effective than just the word put. He put it into his ear or he slid it into his ear. Slid, we get the feeling that it's going a much longer distance, deeper into the ear. Punctured, beyond anything, beyond the world. So he uses the word beyond twice here for emphasis. A loud kissing sound. If you put your lips together but make like a longer sound, it creates this very annoying high-pitched sound. And you'll see why Stephen King uses this as a description in the anecdote. Hot fluid, so we have an adjective there. Ran, streaming face, big wet patch, and fine tendrils. Let's see how Stephen King uses these words as he describes his trip to the doctor. All right, so he goes to the doctor. Doctor says your ear's infected, and then the doctor takes a needle and he puts it in Stephen King's ear. He slid the needle into my ear and punctured my eardrum with it. The pain was beyond anything I have ever felt since. It was pain beyond the world. I screamed. There was a sound in my head, a loud kissing sound. Hot fluid ran out of my ear. It was as if I had started to cry out of the wrong hole. God knows I was crying enough out of the right ones by then. I raised my streaming face and looked unbelieving at the ear doctor and the nurse. And then I looked at the cloth the nurse had spread out over the top third of the exam table. It had a big wet patch on it. There were fine tendrils of yellow pus on it as well. There, said the doctor, patting my shoulder. You were very brave, Stevie, and it's all over. Okay, so there's some great writing here. Repeating the word beyond in order to emphasize how painful it was, beyond anything, beyond the world. Hot fluid didn't just come out of his ear, hot fluid ran out of his ear. And his face, he's crying, so he mentions tears streaming down his face. I raised my streaming face. And then he looks at the cloth that was under his ear that the nurse put on the table, and it's wet. It's got a big wet patch, and there are fine tendrils. Tendrils are like long, thin lines of yellow pus. It's a very disgusting, very visual, but very effective way of describing what Stephen King experienced as a small child. I didn't feel happy when I read that paragraph, but I did feel that I had experienced what the writer had wanted me to feel. Okay, moving on from those two examples. So we had Sayaka Murata describing the convenience store, and we had Stephen King describing a childhood visit to the doctor's office. Now I'd like to go on to the textbook. So in the textbook, if I quickly go over here, in the textbook, it talks about descriptive essays on page 51. and it gives some details of the structure and the purpose and the content we normally find in a descriptive essay. The purpose is quite simple. It's to describe a person, place, or thing. You want to convey something to the reader, to give a clear mental picture and use the power of language to make the reader feel what you felt, see what you saw, hear what you heard, taste what you tasted, or feel what you felt. If you feel, if you feel that you experienced what the writer experienced, then that writer has done a good job. So in the introduction, we usually give a little bit of background. You tell us what you're going to describe, and you give us an idea why you're going to describe it, why it's interesting. Your thesis statement should tell me why this thing is important to you. Is it an important person? Is it an important place? Is it an important food? Is it an important song, a piece of music that means a lot to you? What are you going to describe, and why is it important to you? And then in the body of the essay, you give us details that should help us understand what something looked like, what it felt like, what it tasted like, etc. And then in the conclusion, you give us a little bit of a wrap up. You might mention another reason why this is important to you and why you wanted to describe it. And finally, you give a final thought or a final opinion on what it is that you have described. So when you write a descriptive essay, you want to include a lot of descriptive language, lots of adverbs and lots of adjectives. You want to try and avoid oversimplified language. I mean, if you say something is nice or bad or happy or sad, convenient, comfortable, these words by themselves are not very effective because they're very general. And if you use very generic language, it won't make your writing stand out. If you include verbs, adjectives, and adjectives or phrases that are very particular, this can help the reader get a better sense of what you're describing. Be as specific as you can. Try to make it come to life. Now, the example that I have here in the textbook, this is on page 52. It's called My Favorite Restaurant. And it says here, Ben's Diner. And by the way, I did a Google search to actually find like a Ben's Diner. And so here we are, Ben's Diner. My favorite restaurant, this is on page 52. The writer is going to describe what it's like to go into Ben's Diner, what you can hear, what it feels like being in there. The writer is going to talk about the food, what it smells like, what it tastes like. And by the end of the essay, you should have a very good idea of what it's like to go into this restaurant and try the food. So there are plenty of descriptions in this piece of writing. Descriptions of sight, descriptions of sound, taste, smell, and touch. You can see them all here on the slide. Don't think I need to read them all to you because I'm just about to read them in this essay. So you can follow along in your textbook. This is on page 52, and you can see how all of these words are used to give us a real good sense of what the diner looks like, what the seats feel like, what the food tastes like, the general atmosphere. So you should get a very clear mental picture. Okay, are we ready? Yeah, okay, here we go. One of my favorite restaurants is Ben's Diner on 4th Street because it's perfect for a casual, delicious meal. Ben's is a family business that has been serving the local community for over 60 years. Look for the red neon sign with its flashing knife and fork. When you see it, you know that you can expect good food that was cooked with fresh, local ingredients. As soon as you step through the door at Ben's, you'll be glad that you came. The restaurant is brightly lit and spotlessly clean, with gleaming tables and sparkling floors. You'll get a warm welcome from one of the staff who will take you to a comfortable seat. I like the soft red leather seats in the booths, or sometimes I sit at the smooth marble counter. The pleasant noise of conversation and the soothing clatter of dishes will surround you. If you're not already hungry, the rich smell of homemade chicken soup coming from the kitchen will get you ready to eat. Ben's menu has some old favorites and some unexpected surprises. The perfectly grilled burger is 100% prime beef. Served on a soft toasted bun, it's crunchy on the outside and moist and peppery inside. Add some sharp cheddar cheese for a satisfying treat. The Greek salad is famous for its fresh ingredients. Bright green lettuce leaves, deep red tomatoes, and tangy purple olives. Or how about the chicken fajitas? Served beside your table in a sizzling skillet with a spicy aroma I can't resist. So, whether you're looking for somewhere new to get some great food or just passing through, I suggest you head over to Ben's. You'll feel right at home and enjoy some good cooking too. All right. So after that very short essay, and it's only 3 paragraphs, you should have a very clear sense of what the diner looks like, what it feels to walk inside, the things that you will hear, the type of seats that they have, the feeling of being in the restaurant, the color and the taste of the food. It's very, very descriptive and helps us understand why the writer thinks it's such an important place. Now, one thing to remember, when we use descriptive writing, we will often combine senses. Like when we eat something, somebody once said that we eat with our eyes, which is why when you describe a food, when you describe what it looks like, that can make it sound tastier because we eat with our eyes in a way. Also, we taste with our nose, believe it or not. A big part of our sense of taste actually comes from our sense of smell. And this is why if you have a head cold and your nose is stuffed up, you don't taste food as clearly as you do when you're feeling better. And this is because a lot of our sense of taste actually comes from the way our body is processing the smell at the same time. So smell and taste can be used to describe food. Even the texture of food, for example, we touch the food with our tongue. We put it in our mouth and we can feel it inside our mouths. This means that we're feeling the food with our tongue and our mouth. We're tasting it with our nose as well as our mouth, and we're eating with our eyes. So you can use combinations of different sensory language in order to convey to the reader what it's like to have that food, for example. If you wanted to describe a piece of electronic equipment, you could describe the sound, the clarity of the sound of music when you listen to it, or the cool feeling of the smooth surface as you touch it. You might describe how light it feels in your pocket or in your hand. If you're describing a piece of electronic equipment, you're probably not going to be describing the smell or the taste, however. So try to combine the language for at least 2 senses when you're describing something. All right, so I'm just about to finish my lecture for today. I'll keep this one quite short, so it won't be too hard for you. I know I've given you a lot of homework lately. Here's what I'd like you to do. So first of all, on Thursday, I'm going to bring some of the questions that you brainstormed with your partners last class. I might use some of the ones from today's PowerPoint. I might mix them up with other ones. You'll see. It'll be a surprise. But we'll have a little discussion about Generation Z or Generation Z at the beginning of the class. And then I want to move on to talking about descriptive language. I'm going to give you a list of different products and services. And I would like you and your partners to choose a product or service from that list and then decide how you could create like a commercial voiceover for that product. A short paragraph between 5 and 10 sentences that will make the class understand why they should buy it. So why is this product so special? Why is this food so tasty? Why is this service so excellent? I'll give you a list of 6 different things to choose from, and each group will choose a different one. Write a short paragraph, and then somebody in each group will read it to the class. So I look forward to seeing that on Thursday. I will show you the different products in class. Okay. After that, so just a quick thing on the homework. So what I'd like you to do for homework today is to read Adventure Seekers Wanted. This is on page 54. This is another descriptive essay, and this is very much like a commercial. It is advertising a product, and it uses descriptive language to show why something is attractive and good and why people should buy this type of product. Buy this, don't buy something else. Also answer questions 1 to 6 on pages 54 and 55. And actually, please complete exercise B on page 53 as well. Page 53, this is after Ben's Diner. There are 6 sentences here. And the sentences themselves are fairly simple. There's not really any descriptive language. But exercise B states, read the sentences and rewrite them to make them more descriptive. Add adjectives, adverbs, details, and specific language and sensory language. Be creative. It gives an example here too. Sentence number 1, the man lived in a house far from the city. It's a very simple sentence, not really any descriptive language. The rewritten version is, the old man lived quietly in a small farmhouse far from the busy city. So he's not just a man, he's an old man. And he lived how? He lived quietly. He lived in a small house. What kind of house? A small farmhouse. Far from the city, far from the busy city. So we've got a lot more descriptive language than the original sentence. Please do the same thing with number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. The room was filled with roses, daisies, and lilacs, so flowers. Number 3, the chicken and potatoes were good. We went on a hike through the forest. His aunt entered the room. I didn't get to watch the soccer game on TV. Rewrite those in a much more descriptive way. And then I would like you to take pictures of all of this. So questions 1 to 6 on page 54 and 55, and also page 53, exercise B. Take pictures and then upload them to Cyber Campus assignments for participation points. Yeah, don't upload it to Kakao Work. I think this time it'll be easier if we just put it on Cyber Campus assignments. I can do that way a little bit easier. All right, so thank you very, very much. You should watch this video before our class on Thursday and come to class ready to talk about Generation Z and also ready to use your descriptive writing powers in order to write a short paragraph describing a product or service for a commercial. Okay, if you have any questions, please post them into the group chat on Kakao Work, and I will see everybody on Thursday. Okay, let me stop sharing. All right, thank you very, very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.